Well, joining me now to talk more about the economics of players' salaries is Annamaria Lusardi. She's the endowed chair of Economics and Accountancy at the George Washington University's School of Business. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. So as we look at these top NBA draft picks, what sorts of endorsements essentially start coming into place once they turn pro?
Well, many, as you can imagine, particularly the sneaker industry has been very prominent in giving this huge contract, and we have seen this huge with previous very famous players, think of Michael Jordan and so on. And so, the salary is only one part of the big money that they are going to get. And in fact, they might get even more money from those endorsements.
Now, obviously, this is a big change, going from being an unpaid student athlete now to suddenly becoming a millionaire. And we know that Zion Williamson hasn't even started his first game yet and is already having some issues with a prior contract that he had with another company. So what are some of the common pitfalls that some of these students who are now becoming athletes tend to fall into?
Well, he's 18 years old, right? So, this is a very young person. And we have done a lot of research on NFL players. And we saw that, these people that, these talented players that get so much money actually start getting into trouble after they stop playing. There can be problems even when you are playing, given the large amount of money that you are receiving. But, those large amount of money also carries with them issues, responsibility, and lots of requests from people around you. And we see that, in the future, when they actually stop playing, we see that some of these players are even going bankrupt.
And obviously, it's not everyone who's getting these huge endorsements. Some people, they're just making a regular salary. Not everyone's going to be a Michael Jordan or a LeBron or a Williamson. So what share of athletes actually make it to that level?
Well, it's a small share, and I have to say, what we see is that, the salary, even as you go down the peak, the top one are the highest one, but as you go down, there are still sizable salaries, and so, the median salary of this player are, in those short years of their career, equivalent to the lifetime income of a college degree person, and often many times the salary of a college educated person. So, they don't play for a very, very long period of time, but those salaries are really sizable. They are well above what, college degrees people make.
That's interesting. So that sort of contracted version, but over a period of time, ends up matching a college education.
So all of the income comes at the beginning of life. It's a great thing.
Yeah, I certainly wouldn't complain. Now, unfortunately, we know that a lot of the players from the 80s and 90s ended up going broke. How did they end up in that position? What were some of the mistakes that were made back then?
Yeah. So first of all, I want to give a statistics. Often the statistics is cited that, for example, 78% of NFL players go bankrupt, of a very large percentage of players go bankrupt. And when we did our research, I think we need to put that number in perspective. When we really look closely at the data, a number of, for example, people go bankrupt, but the percentages are, around 16%, for example, of a cohort of NFL players in the 80s and 90s went bankrupt if we follow them 15 years into retirement. So it's a sizable proportion. And the other things that we found is that there isn't, I think, a single reason necessarily, but, I think what we saw, and these are also listening to and looking at the many stories of those bankruptcy, is that, often people were doing bad investments and sometimes even led by bad financial advisors. Right. Sometimes there was excessive spendings. And interestingly, I think it also came from the fact that so many people came to them and they were supporting, friends, families, relatives.
It can be a lot of pressure.
It can be a lot of pressure when you are so public and your salary is so public.
Right.
And then also, issues like taxes, they often play in a different state and there are many taxes implications, and they are also earning a high salary. You have to consider the tax implications and so on. And so there are really a lot of reasons which actually speaks of poor money management.
So how, just quickly, how has the leagues, the different sports leagues, how have they responded? And are there some that are better, really preparing them for their current situation and retirement than others?
Yeah, I think, now the leagues have become more aware of these problems and that these problems do affect the players and they need to take actions. And so we do see the league, for example, pairing with money management companies so they can provide advice. We see, for example, summer camps with financial literacy and a little bit more in that area. My recommendation is we really need to do more because, this is very important. These young people are managing very large amount of money, and we need to make sure that they have the skills, first of all, to play well, but also to play well with their money.
Certainly important to invest them in all aspects. Thank you so much. Great to have you on. Annamaria Lusardi there, the endowed chair of Economics and Accountancy at the George Washington University's School of Business.